I believe. I'm wondering if this is too loud though. So let me adjust the levels just a little bit. Because it seems like the music's pretty good in this game. Oh shit. I forgot to change this title. Fuck. Today we played... Oh shit. Today we play Road 96 for narrative study. Category Road 96. Mystery, action, narrative. Nope. Story. Nope. Should do this before the stream, and then I wouldn't have to worry about it. Educational. That's good. That's good. Update the information. Well, I'll have my non-existent YouTube editor do it for the YouTube video. Okay. So, let's start streaming, huh? Today, well, this is Vandayaha Games. My name is Dylan. I am a self-proclaimed professional writer, although I don't think it's entirely unwarranted. I have published numerous short stories. I've written a couple of novels. The first one was really bad. If you want to learn more about that novel, you should go check out the previous video on the YouTube channel, Vandayaha Games on YouTube. And I also have been paid for various forms of writing over various years, including fiction. I have an upcoming project for a school where I'm going to help write a creative nonfiction book for them, which would be pretty fun. Carlsberg. Elephant, specifically. And what was the other thing I was going to say? I think that might be it. Oh, I got my MFA. That's right. I got my Master's of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from Southern Illinois University. And if anybody is from Neophyte or is coming over from Neophyte, I helped found Neophyte. And then when I moved to Germany, the time difference was what it was. And now I am living here. And so I started Vandayaha. Neophyte being newcomer and Vandayaha meaning wandering years. And I just got a message on Discord. I'll check it on my phone while I am talking. Vandayaha meaning wandering years. Oops, I hit the wrong thing. Live on Twitch. Oh, it was my notification pinging everybody in the Discord that I am live on Twitch. I should probably remember that. And so what this channel is about, effectively, essentially, boiled down to its bare elements, is I'm a big gamer. I have made a few games with some developer people who have become pretty good friends now. Shout out to Two Links and Squishy Puff Dave. Although I haven't made a game with Squishy Puff Dave yet. I would like to. And what I want to do with Vandayaha is I want to analyze games that are doing a good job. Oh, Four Gathers, thank you for the follow. What I want to do with Vandayaha is spotlight games with good narrative, explain why the narratives are good, particularly because I believe that the video game medium is so good at providing the same level, the same effects that a good story can deliver through means that are unattainable in any other medium, right? So because of the embodiment, video games are naturally embodied, and this is kind of the subject that I'm going to talk about today. So what embodying is, what embodied fiction is when you're reading a story is all of the material in the story comes from the body, right? So when you're reading just print fiction, for example, you what you're reading is he put his heavy boots on the ground one after another. The cold wind bit the back of his neck. The icy chill no, that's a bad line. The squelching mud pulled on his boots, right? So these are all, you get a sense of what's going on in the story, right? There's like kind of a hefty guy in hefty clothes walking around somewhere that's cold, and he's clearly not like in a town because of all that stuff, right? All of that information is conveyed without me telling you that. I didn't tell you on the outskirts of town or off in the forest, or I didn't need to, because all of that was already embodied within the way that I told the story just from the character's perspective. We make natural assumptions as human beings that are most oftentimes correct, right? And so, where am I going with this? So, well, this is what embodied fiction is, right? It's the reason why it's called embodied is because you can kind of project your own self into it. You can feel the icy or the cold wind on your neck. You can feel the tug of mud on your boots, likely because you've experienced it, or at least vicariously experienced it in some capacity, right? These are things that you understand, and so you can kind of embody yourself within the character and then feel what they're feeling, right? So that's what embodied fiction is. It's super crucial. It's really important if you're going to write print fiction that you get good at doing that kind of thing, right? Hey yo, what up, dog? Hello there, Sasquatch. Just talking about embodied fiction. Okay, so embodied fiction writ video games. So here's the thing about video games is that video games are natively, unless you're playing like a second person or like a real-time strategy game. If you're playing like a bog standard, you control one character in a virtual world game, the games are naturally, even if they're third person, they are naturally second person narratives, right? And what do I mean by, what do I mean by second person? Second person is you form, right? So first person, I, third person, he, second person, you. So you do this, you do that, right? And it's interesting because when we're talking about games, like let's say in a walkthrough, it doesn't say like, okay, how do I beat Father Gascoigne in Bloodborne, right? It doesn't say, I go to the graveyard and I make sure to bring potions and the music box so that I can, that's not what, nobody ever says that when they're talking about games, nor do they say he goes to he goes to the shortcut that leads to the elevator so that he can take the bridge across. That way he can skip the underground, whatever, the underground cellar sewers shit. He can skip all that and go right across the bridge and get to Father Gascoigne. You never say that when you're talking about video games. You say you go here, you do this, you do that. And so from a narrative perspective, even though Bloodborne as a game is in third person, narratively it is games in general are a second person experience. And that is a really interesting and crucial thing that I think is important about video game narratives, is understanding that all video games, well, not all video games, but most video games, particularly video games that are considered to have good stories, are in second person. Now, why is that important? Because of embodied fiction. The better you can get at embodying the sense of a character's experience via second person, the easier it will be for your audience to understand the plight or whatever your character is going through, right? And you don't need to have long cutscenes. You don't need to have internal monologue. You don't need none of it. You don't need any of it as long as you understand that that games in general are in second person, and that you need to try and figure out how to embody it. So, embodying fiction in games is another interesting topic, right? There's many different ways to do it. Like the PS5 it was funny to me when the PS5 was talking about its new controller. It was like, oh my God, the haptics are incredible. When I looked at that, I was like, oh, okay, so what they're going to try and do is they're going to try and engage another sense for the embodied fiction. And it was like totally accurate, right? Like when you're, for example, this isn't the best example, but it is an example. Because I don't have that many PS5 games yet. So FIFA, right? So the new FIFA. I love FIFA. I play every FIFA every year. Actually, no, that's not true. I'll skip every once in a while. but I do play a lot of FIFA, and in the new FIFA games, one of the things that's quite interesting is that as you get to the 90th, the 90th minute in a soccer match, or in a foosball match, since I'm in Germany now, Fußballspiel. As you get to the 90th minute, your characters in the game are naturally start to lose their health bar, right? The further the game goes on, or not health bar, their stamina. So as the game goes on, the stamina bar gets smaller. Something that's new to this particular thing, though, is that the triggers, the haptic triggers, so pulling R2 on a PlayStation controller will cause your character to sprint, right? They will run faster than normal. However, when they're getting tired, the haptics kick in and the trigger is actually harder to pull down on, right? It's actually a more difficult thing to pull down on. Now, that's not the only way that you can embody it, but it's just one example of a way that you can embody the experience of a digital life form, for lack of a better word, in the moment. But there's just so many different ways that you can do it. So many. And in my opinion, as many different ways to tell embodied fiction through a video game as there are in narrative print fiction. Right? It's just a matter of exploring them and thinking about them, but you don't know to do that unless you know that that exists, right? And so that's kind of what I'm getting at when it comes to embodied fiction. However, I just remembered that I forgot to go over the things that I want Vandayaha to do. I want Vandayaha to analyze games, kind of like I just did then, through a narrative lens, right? This is specifically narrative. It is focused on narrative, and only narrative. Now, that doesn't mean that non-narrative games can't be played. I think that chess is a narrative game, right? And we will talk about, in some capacities, a narrative game. We will talk about it a little bit, not today, because I have plenty of things that I want to talk about today. But at some point, we will talk about non-narrative games as narrative games, right? And the ludological spectrum. And don't worry, ludological dissonance will not be the name of the show, and it won't be the only thing I talk about. Vandayaha will also be supporting, it's just me for now, but it will be supporting as of right now, monthly game jam. So you can go to itch.io. It's on the calendar right now. You can search Vandayaha games on itch.io. You'll see the jam that I've already put up. It's narrative game jam number 1, straight up on itch, ready to go, ready for people to sign up. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, can I do this? Itch in chat? Haha, take a look. So yeah, if you're in chat, you can type !itch, and then it'll bring up the itch channel, the itch webpage URL. So you can go there, you can sign up for the game jams, you can make games, and then at the end of every month, I will take the 10 best games, which, I mean, best is totally relative, but it'll be voted on by the community of Vandayaha. I will play the 10 best games. If there's 12, I'll play 12. And I will comment on their narratives and their narrative structure and how to make the narratives better. So that's what I will do for free. And because I cannot pay you for winning my game jam, so I can pay you in education. That's what I can do. So that is kind of the totality of Vandayaha. Stream games, comment on their narratives. Analyze narratives in this new medium, this new form. Host monthly game jam, in which people can come and submit their games, and then I will tell you how to get better, right? Specifically at narrative, because I don't know anything about code. Nothing at all. And I'm learning. I have a conceptual understanding of game design, kind of like what I was just talking about with the ludic element of pulling the trigger with FIFA. I have a very tertiary understanding of game design. However, I would not even remotely claim that I am a game designer. I can try and map game to story, but I don't think that I can do anything beyond that, nor could I ever tell a developer how. Well, let's not say never, because the goal that I want is to work for games. I want to write games. That's what I want to do in some capacity, in any capacity, actually. So that's what I'm hoping to get out of Ando Yahoo, is to write games for people, write games for companies, write games for all of it. Just write games, write narrative for games. Anyway, I'm all over the place. So let's just let's cut it right there and let's start this. So this is Road 96. I actually just saw this today on Steam, and I was like, well, that looks super interesting. I think we should give it a shot. The reason why I think that this game stood out to me is because it is a road game. I've never heard it described as that before. Why? Bot, why are you posting so much? Okay, 1 second. We're gonna put this up, and then we're gonna come here, and then we're going to mute this server. Okay. Sorry about that. So the reason why this game stood out to me and is interesting is because it is a road game, and I've never even heard of a road game. I've never played a road game. I know what a road novel is. I've read many a road novel. So, for example, On the Road by Jack Kerouac, that's a road novel. And what a road novel is essentially a character who, let me back up. There's something I'm going to talk about a lot on this channel. So all narratives in some form, in every form actually, all narratives, no matter what, they share one thing in common, and that's the journey from innocence to experience. Now, innocence doesn't necessarily mean pure. It doesn't necessarily mean anything in particular. It's just a state in which you are inexperienced to experience, right? So that's every single narrative in some capacity is about this. It is from the journey from inexperience to experience. So a road novel, as you probably have already put together, is a story in which the character gains their experience on the road, right? Via automobiles, via the kind of the Americana, the subtext of being on a road trip, right? Like all of these things culminate into a sense of understanding in our minds of like, because everybody's been on a road trip, at least I think. Maybe if you're from Philadelphia, it's always sunny. But I think just the idea of a road trip kind of conjures many different feelings, right? Isolation, meeting a ton of new people, not really having enough time to connect with anybody except for those who are in your car, which you have an innate, like, deep connection with, that kind of thing. So road novels are just automatically they just automatically have a bunch of stuff built in. And so this game being a road game, a road story, made me wonder, that's very interesting. I wonder what that's all about. So we're going to play it. Press any button. Listen to the original soundtrack. Wishlist now. Play.
Hey there. Mind if I ask you a few questions? When you watch a movie, you do so to...
Escape reality.
You might also watch a movie to...
Let me change this so that you can see it a little bit better. Experience fear.
Thanks. Good to know. Oh, one last question.
I love horror.
What would you do if you disagreed with our country's government?
What? That was an interesting question. Well, consider living abroad, since I live in Germany, right? I already expatriated. Vote to make change. I mean, okay. So here's the thing. My mind says vote to make changes because that's genuinely what I believe is the better option. However, I kind of already moved to Germany. so I think I'll just have to do this.
Right on. And I guess you're like the other runaway teens, trying to dangerous to
Petria.
cross the border. I hope you're ready.
I think. Oh yeah, I got the demo, by the way. Because I figured it would be enough for today, and if it's really cool, then I'll just buy it and we'll finish it. But sorry, I'm talking about my dog. Okay, this demo represents one of the many possible road journeys that you can experience in the game. No journeys will be the same. Please be aware that the game is still a work in progress. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, another road game that just came to mind was 80 Days. I don't know if anybody's ever played that game, but it's very good, very, very good. And it's loosely, well, not loosely, it's quite concretely based on the Jules Verne novel, but of the same name. But it's a really cool, really, really cool game, really well written too. But just thinking in terms of road games. Okay. Goldfinger.
Thanks for the ride, homegirl. Now I got time to work on this game.
Yeah. Oh. Look outside. Exit. This is interesting. So we're in America. Well, are we? Because we're going in between 0 and 180 miles an hour. Petria's. Yeah, it has to be in km. A strong nation needs strong cars. Where are you headed?
Anywhere with free electricity. Just need to charge my super dope tech in the back.
Alex's backpack is full of dope tech and designs for even more dope tech.
Go on. Ask me a question. I can multitask like an MFer.
Like an MFer? Any tips on how... I should be looking at the road. No way to cross the border?
I don't want to escape myself. But I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a girl who crossed using some secret tunnels at the border.
So it's very political, which is... I actually think that that's kind of interesting. I think that games are still so in their infancy. I wonder if this is just on a loop, and I just haven't noticed it because I'm looking around. I think that games are still in their infancy when it comes to like political commentary. Disco, I think, did the best job. Disco Elysium so far. And then that game that was made by Jaeger, I forget the name of it though. The one that's it's not loosely, it's semi-solidly based on Heart of Darkness. I forget the name of it though. It's a shooty game. Let's see. But on the whole, I think that if you're gonna write political commentary, you better be really fucking good at it because it's really hard. And when it comes across as a political narrative, it tends to feel preachy. And so far, now this is the demo, so maybe there's a better opening act, but so far we're missing a bunch of things to make this game feel better, right? Narratively. So one of the things that this game is missing, and I don't mean this to be a knock on the developers, I think that all games are missing these in general, is this game is missing a first act, right? We're kind of dropped in medias res, and maybe that's for the game's for the benefit of the game, but dropped in after the inciting incident, dropped in after Act 1, it's a little rough. It's a little rough. I mean, even just skipping this, picking up this kid is kind of like, why? Like if we had, because that could have been the inciting incident easily. But yeah, so right now the game is missing, and let me back up and talk about what the inciting incident is. So in every single narrative ever, there is an inciting incident. Now the inciting incident is a hefty number of things, but they're always in the narrative, right? So easy example, Harry Potter. What's the inciting incident of Harry Potter? Well, he gets a letter to go to Hogwarts, right? And so that's what causes the world of the story to change, right? Harry is a little boy who's living under the stairs, and one day he gets a letter to go to a wizard school, and his entire world is completely flipped, turned upside down. And because of this, he's not quite yet forced on a journey, but he does deny this call, right? He denies the call to go to Hogwarts originally, and also is kind of forced to not go by his uncle, right? And then the story forces Harry to go, right? Hagrid shows up, shit's going down. Harry, you gotta go to school, or I'm gonna beat your ass with my giant, like, watermelon-sized fists, right? So that's not exactly accurate to Harry Potter, but that is basically that is the Act 1 inciting incident, call to journey, refusal of the call, and then forced to go, right? And every narrative needs it because it's how you sympathize with a character. It's how you sympathize with the protagonist of a story. You just need to have it. You have to. It's a unwritten / written rule of narrative fiction, and this game doesn't have it so far. So I think that, while once again this is the demo, so I could very well be missing it, but a good example of a very hard narrative, like a game that is completely focused on narrative, is Firewatch, right? Firewatch does a great job of flying through that Act 1 just as fast as it can, because part of the problem with Act 1s is that there's not much to them. And from a play perspective, right? There's not a whole lot to do in Act 1. It's like, and all of it feels a little, it's like, what are you going to do in Act 1 if you're playing the Harry Potter game? Like, walk around, open the refrigerator, close it, like, that's why in most games, when you're playing a game, the Act 1 is like, well, you go to the zoo and as Harry, and then you get locked in the basement, so you have to, like, fight these things, to get out of the basement to go back up to the school field trip. That's how that shit happens, right? That's how they do it in games typically, because I just don't think that there's just not enough writers in the room telling people, like, well, what if we just did it like this? What if we just did it like this, right? Or I figured out how to speed the process along. So, like, Firewatch, for example, it's just a quick little multiple choice quiz. And it's pleasant, it's easy to read, but it's also kind of heart-wrenching. And once you're through it, you know everything you need to know about the character, you sympathize with him, and go, and play the game, the whole game, right? So that's just something that kind of came to mind. Let's see. Flores will destroy the wall if she wins. I don't know what these symbols mean, but
Doesn't matter because she's never gonna win.
this choice has an impact.
Tyrick
Tyrick ain't
ain't gonna let it happen.
gonna let it happen. Car.
Now, let me get back to this beta.
Okay. Crunchy tunes. Kind of busy right now.
I sell my games, Built that
On
computer
itch?
too. One day, everyone will have a computer like that. Nah, that's too stupid, yo. I'm telling you, small computers are the future. Hungry? Ask your small computer for food. Lost? Ask your small computer for directions.
Yeah, so far this game feels like it's definitely meant to be very, very, very politically motivated and self-referential, like referential comedy. Be cool to do that all on a
That's the
computer.
future, homegirl. I'm telling you.
Take full core X.
Yo, we gonna play this bad boy or not?
How am I gonna play the game while I'm driving? Yeah, let's play it. Let's pull over on the shoulder. aren't I winning?
Ouch.
I fired like 100
Yo,
times.
maybe we can make it better. Maybe the player has to gather ammo? Maybe the bullets bounce off the walls? What do you think?
Iterations. I like it. Bouncing bullets.
Let me just... Boom! Game time, yo.
Does he? He will eventually get hit by one.
So, what do you think? And be honest. I hate liars.
I prefer the. I like it the way it
I'm
is.
trusting you on this, yo.
If I can't get hit by my rounds, then it's much better for me to just fire thousands of bullets. F-Tank rules. Let's ship it.
Here's an advance on the profits. And there are sure to be profits.
Oh, you didn't actually need to give me money. I was fucking with you. That is a lot of cash. Drink.
Yo, one day 100 people will play the same game at the same time.
Is it going to be called Fortnite? I'm going to have to stop you
I'm
right here.
telling you.
No way, man. Not in Petra.
Maybe you're right. Petria, man. It's like we're living in the
The
dark
United
ages.
States of Impetria. What?
It's not you, homegirl. It's just... I don't know my parents. Not my real parents,
Okay.
anyway.
Dot, dot,
You
dot.
know the attack in 86? Yeah. Well, I think my bio parents died in the attack, too.
So this game is about him, I think.
The really sad part is, I got no memories of them. None. No matter how hard I try. I just have this picture.
Picture of a man and a woman taken on set. Yeah, the attack. Alec believes that these are. Yeah, I know. He just told me.
It's from GNN, the day of the attack. They appear for just 1
GNN.
second. I learned a lot about
Just said it in
computers and
America.
hands
You know, just said it in America. Like that's the thing that I think is a little bit weird. Is like, so the game. What I'm noticing about this so far is that the narrative of this game is lacking confidence. Like, a lot. The world of the narrative is lacking confidence in its existence, right? Which is why it says Petria on GNN, and one day people are going to play Fortnite, and like that is just when your world is underwritten. That this is the product of that, right? Which is why I say just set it in America, because nobody's going to be like, how dare you say CNN and say that Trump is going to keep the wall up, you know, and just do it. Like it's fine. It's fine. It'll be more arresting, and it won't feel like this kind of one foot here, 1 foot there, wishy-washy, you know, just either spend the whole time like Disco did. Disco put so much work. Disco Elysium put so much work into its world that it felt believable, and the conflicts and the political strife of that world felt so real that they could do anything with it, right? Whereas in this game, it just doesn't feel like the world has that much confidence yet. But it could get there, and if it got there, I think all of this would land way better. But yeah. Looks like they were really nice.
Yeah. In a way, I guess my bio parents did teach me about computers.
I suppose they did.
Thanks, homegirl. Guess I needed to talk and didn't know it. And that's why I'm on the road. They're probably gone. You know,
Yeah, so I think this game is about him.
but I
Because
hope
he
I
has
learn as
way more
much
screen
about
time
them
than
as
the
I can.
protagonist does. That's locked? Okay. Good luck with your search.
Thanks, homegirl. You can drop me off at location. Yo, your fuel is low. You're gonna run out of gas fast.
I am.
I know that. Think I'm
Oh,
lying?
really? Oh, I was
Nah.
kidding. I thought that was a joke.
We best ride in style.
We should probably not. Might use more gasoline. I really like the ambition of this game. I really like this idea. So I'm interested to see how it pans out. What is this? I don't know what that meter means.
Wow, you look rough. Yeah, I'll take your word for it. What is it? Looks like you got something on your mind. I haven't made it myself, obviously, but I hear there's a rock near the cave.
It's very pretty.
It said kids leave money under it.
I really
You
like
know,
the direction of
if you
their
need
art.
some dough for a smuggler or whatever.
Everything's very kind of cohesive.
Yeah, same to you.
Okay, so I'm going to be tracking this. So we start, I don't know where the car went. Maybe that's the car up there. I don't know why I walked over here then. But what I'm going to be tracking here now is what's called, I'm going to be doing scene tracking. And so scene tracking in narrative terms is where I'm tracking the structure of the scene, right? So for all intents and purposes, this is the start of the scene. It looks like it's morning or maybe night, but I'm pretty sure morning. So early morning, and I had a very non-confrontational conversation with some hitchhiker guy. What if I just, oh, I can't get in the street. I was wondering if I could run out and like flag that guy. And so the immediate goal of the character in this scene is to find a ride, I'm assuming. And so now we'll see how that kind of tracks, because how narrative works and how narrative structure works is in scene, right? Every single narrative works on scene format. And how a scene works is you have entering emotion, right? Positive or negative. So if you're happy, or if you're sad, or if you're angry, or if you're elated, or whatever. If you enter the scene, or the character enters the scene with a particular emotion. So if they enter happy, great. So they're happy, and then they have a goal. So every character will have a goal in every scene, every single scene, no matter what, right? Even if it's a very small goal. Not every single scene needs to have like a kill the main bad guy goal, right? But every scene should have a goal for the protagonist, or whoever the primary character of the scene is, if you're running multiple protagonists, right? So entering emotion, positive. We'll say positive in this case because it seems like she's, I mean, actually probably negative because she doesn't have her car. But yeah, so entering emotion, goal, kind of intertwined. Conflict, right? So that is the obstacle which the character needs to overcome in order to attain their goal of the scene, right? And then resolution, which leads to the exiting emotion. Now here's the kicker. Every single scene in every narrative ever needs to go from positive to negative, right? So it needs to go from happy to sad. So if a character is happy and their goal is to find a ride, then the end of the scene needs to be they are sad about something, right? Either they don't get a ride or they do get a ride, but it's with somebody they're a little bit worried about, or, you know, they're a little nervous about it, or, you know, something like that, right? So in this scene, I'm going to go with negative because it seems like we've lost our car and we still don't have a way to get across the border, right? So that is what I'm going with. So now let's go this way. Unless that's the car. I have no idea.
Say, you look familiar.
I do. I get that a lot.
You're one of those teens on the posters.
No.
Yeah, I'd recognize that silhouette anywhere. Better call the cops. Make sure you're not missing. I am. See that pump? Serve gas for me and we won't have any problems.
Okay. Was this the car I was driving? No, because the one that I was driving, the mirror was broken. Okay. So we have a politically... Oh, there's some input lag. We have a politically motivated teen who is on the missing list. Oh, no way. You can actually play that. I'm not going to do that. That's definitely not something I'm going to do. I'm going to switch the TV off because fuck that guy. What is this? Stop kicking the vending machine. Okay. I don't want any of these things. This game makes me want to play Jalopy. I don't know if anybody's played Jalopy, but man, Jalopy is a fucking cool game. V-Power, Diesel, Unleaded. Start shift. Okay, so it's like mini games. Okay, but actually, can I pause this? Sweet. So here's the thing. Here's what's cool. We actually did get a conflict, right? The guy recognized us. He said, I'm blackmailing you. And you're like, no, please, I just want to get the fuck out of here. And he's like, you're going to do something for me. Otherwise, I'm going to take that shit away from you, right? So we'll see how the end of the scene plays.
10 liters of unleaded. Make it best.
Unleaded? Green. Oh shit. Oh, I did 20. My bad.
I said 10 liters. This better not ruin my baby's engine.
You're in the back.
Any mistakes will be docked from your pay.
Pay? I'm getting paid?
And now, a sneak peek of today's Sonia show. With the election approaching, polls show Tyrak well ahead of Flores. And with good reason. Tune in later to hear more.
The Sonia Show. Now that's the real news.
Okay.
Give me $15 diesel.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean to stop. Oh my god, I suck at pumping gas.
What? You got a job working here? I don't want your kind around here. My kind? What do you mean, my kind? I know what you're up to. Trying to leave the country. Border crossers. Tyrak is right to do to you what he does.
What does he do?
Oh, look who's pulling in. Yeah, you'd better run.
Why can't I run?
Hey, little young to pump gas, aren't you? Just give me $12 of V-Power. Did I see a kid run off?
You did, yeah. How's that for a guilty conscience?
It doesn't even say. Oh shit, what did she say? 12? I think she said 12.
That's not what I asked for. Now,
You absolutely said 12 liters of V-Power. Whoa.
You hear about the hitcher?
nope.
have a look.
Let's just get it going.
Flip me. I know what you're thinking, kid. You want to help the kid, but that would be a mistake. You understand what I'm telling you?
Come out, kid. We know you're in here.
I mean, clearly he's not.
There you are.
Bang, 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 bang. That would be fucked up.
You're going.
I didn't do anything. Leave me alone.
You hear that? Kid's innocent.
Uh-huh. Just like all the others.
Get him in the van. I'll join you in a sec. Now what about this one?
This one's legit. Works here.
I don't know. Look how dirty she is. Looks like a crosser to me. Not gonna talk, huh? Well, you'll have plenty of time at the station. You're coming with me.
I'll take it from here.
Yo, what?
I'll book her. Besides, save you room to
Fine, I guess.
But I trusted you. I didn't trust shit.
Shut up, kid.
Later. Who said ha? Oh, the gas guy. Okay.
Okay.
Gotta say that there's some scene movement going on. I'm actually pretty stoked about it.
You didn't break any law? Those guys were just on a power trip. Sorry I yelled at you like that. Had to make it look real. And I'm sorry about the other kid. He seemed nice.
How do you know? You didn't know him.
Yeah. Seems like you want to ask me something. Of course I have thoughts. Not really. Sorry.
What? I wish I knew what these symbols meant. Is there an explanation of them? That would be handy. I just don't know what that means.
Your preferred candidate's been noted.
Oh,
kid.
maybe it's because it's
Bye, kid. Take care, okay?
it's like a consequential choice or something. Okay. Wow, she probably shouldn't have let me out here, right? So I could walk. Could I steal the car? Is that a possibility? Oh, I need keys. What if I just like walk around back here? No, it's okay. Let's just sneak past this guy and figure out what's in there. Is that a cab? I think it's a cab. Call home. Interesting. Let's go a hitchin'.
She let you go?
Shut up. Is that the end? I bet it's the end. Yeah, so that's probably the end of the demo. I think this game actually might be worth picking up. Yeah, I think I might pick this game up. Maybe for next week. Because I think the thing that's really interesting about it, it's... is meant to be replayed. Play the demo again for new scenes and a totally different gaming experience. So here's the thing. while I kind of disagreed with the way that they set up their narrative in the beginning, and while I kind of disagreed with some of the overtly political stuff, it kind of started pulling it off toward the end, right? I still thought it was a little weird that it's like I still don't really understand the like dissonance between like it's clearly Americans right down to like dudes with kind of stereotypical Southern accents going, "Well, give me some diesel," but it's in like GNN, but it's in Petria, and like it seems like it's like, give me 12 liters. Yeah, it's just kind of weird, and it's immersion breaking for me. And so, all that aside, though, when it actually wanted to get real and like do some cool narrative work, I think it actually did a pretty good job. And I think one of the cool things about this game is that it's very good at being analyzed from a narrative perspective. Because the game is clearly intending to be narrative, right? And so I think I'll end up picking this game up, because if the runs are kind of about, like, if each chapter or scene, as it were about that long, I think we could churn out a lot of really interesting content about this game, and about video game narrative in general. But yeah, so I think it's super interesting. I don't think I'm gonna like full replay it, because I'm coming down to the last
Mind if I ask you a few questions?
8 minutes.
Question 1. When you travel, you usually...
I want to analyze this game more, and I want to see how the first scene pans out when there's different questions. So, travel with my family.
Well, if that's your idea of fun. Kidding. So, next question. When you're traveling, do you follow the itinerary, or are you more spontaneous?
Completely spontaneous.
Good to know. And
I'm just
I
being
guess you
super
like
honest.
The other runaway teens, trying to flee Petria. It's really dangerous to cross the border. I hope you're ready.
Because I think what's going to be very interesting, this game almost feels like an iteration in some ways, not in all ways, but it feels like an iteration on fucking bug on the Telltale games, in that there's a little bit more ludic stuff. Like you do more things, right? It's not literally just like kind of clicking through dialogue options and walking from one area to another. So it seems like there's a little bit more gameplay to the game, but it also still feels like it kind of sets up the narrative in such a way that it brings stuff back to kind of throw in your face. I want to see how, if the things that it throws back at you are relevant, or if they're like completely unpredictable mishmash of nonsense, right? Like, this is one of the things that really annoys me about games that are like choice and consequence, and it's like you shoot some dude in a side quest, and it's like, Billy will remember that, and you're like, wow, oh, Billy will remember that. And then at the end of the game, Billy gets shot by some random guy, and it's like, well, had you not shot the guy in Billy's side quest, then Billy wouldn't have gotten shot. And it's like, well, those don't connect at all, like not even remotely. That's like, me slapping myself in the face caused your car to get repoed. It's like none of it, that doesn't connect. So narratively, right, it doesn't have like a narrative connection. So that's one of the things I'm interested to see, is like if the choices that you make in the early parts of the game actually have like a narrative consequence that logically follows, right? Not necessarily logically, that's not the right word, but that follows in a meaningful way. Okay, so starting 928 miles. Also, why is it miles? It's liters, and the cars are in kilometer, but it's 928 miles. That's what I'm talking about. It's the lack of confidence. It just doesn't know where it is. The setting is kind of unconvincing. Ich fahre ein Motorrad for my German
Kid,
people.
up here! Up here!
What the fuck?
Huh, I've never seen that shade of green before.
He's going to get sick on the hog stand. I knows it.
What'd you say, kid? Can't hear ya. On account of the wind.
Or the super loud
Little
motorcycle.
buddy thanked us for the ride, Stan.
Mitch, hard as I try, I can't
It's in
hear you
Petria.
either. On account
The
of
USS Petria. USSR Petria. Thanks for the ride.
I see your lips are moving, and I know you are speaking to me. Yet pains me to say, I cannot hear you. On account of the wind. Mitch, check the back. Better still be there.
Would if I could, Stan. Now you know I have issues with the lower lumbar.
Right, your issues with the lower lumbar.
Yeah, see.
Kid, check the bag in the back.
Watch! A furry friend!
Aw, that's too bad. Happens with the smaller life forms. I should hug more to discourage them from wandering out like this.
Yeah. This scene is not as well written as the other one. I mean, it's okay. I think it's like the production is quite good. Oh, am I supposed to talk?
The bag. Couldn't say, but it is not stolen dollar bills.
Most definitely is
Durla.
not.
We did it, Mitch. We robbed the big one. First Patria National. That's mighty kind of you to say, kid.
Hey, little buddy. You've heard of Stan and Mitch, right?
You should say yes. I knew it, Mitch. We're famous.
Woohoo!
But here we are, hogging the conversation. Maybe you'd like to pose a topic of your own.
It's interesting because I'm getting very similar vibes from this opening scene that I did with the opening scene with the young developer boy, or person, where like it's clunky, you know, like there's a lot of wasted words, and I think trimming the fat off of this would help it a lot, off of these two opening scenes, because again, it's like I don't know if I'm the same person. We skipped the opening act, right, and it seems like the game is about these two. It's not really about me, and it doesn't even feel like it's really about getting to the border. It feels like it's about running away with these two bank robber guys, and I'm sure at some point it'll just be kind of like, oh, we're gonna drop you off at the next place. And I don't feel like there's narrative weight to any of it. You know what I mean? I felt like there was a grand narrative weight to that second scene with the gas and the kid and the cop. You know, like I felt like a lot of that could come back and be very, very meaningful. But like I never thought I was going to see the developer boy again. Maybe I could. I don't know. But yeah, I think it's fine. I don't really need to continue from here for today. I mean, I can keep playing maybe next week or play a different game and then return to this later. But I do think that the game is really interesting. I think it's a really interesting idea to have like this game kind of centered around these crazy cast of characters that you meet on your road out of Petria. And I think that there's some really cool things that they're doing ludologically with like, I mean, I could go back and analyze the gas station thing a little bit. I thought it was interesting that because that scene was well written. It was like, I'm walking up on this gas station hoping I could find a ride out of here, and instead I'm like literally blackmailed into staying, right? And I have to do this like menial task in order for me to literally not go to jail. And it would have been interesting to see how maybe it could have panned out differently had I like not sucked at pumping gas. But yeah, that was just that was very interesting to me in terms of like I had to be precise about which gas I was using. I kind of wish I had done a few more of those, like just a couple more, not just three. You know, where it's like, man, 12 liters. Um, I wish I had done just a little bit more with it, like two more cars, and you know I get a sense of because it feels like everybody in this world except for me and the black cop lady and Alex are like caricatures of Southern racists, right? Like full on caricatures. It would be cool to see just a few more normal people, you know, like or even meet a couple of people who also want to cross the border, not just me. Um, and maybe who knows? That could all be totally later in the game. I just think it would be cool if we could get some of it earlier on. I'd also like to know more of the character motivation. I don't think there's anything wrong um, with just telling us what the character motivation is, because like we know that she doesn't like President Tyrak or whatever, and that's why she wants to leave. But that's not really a motivation. That's not our true motivation. If she were a freedom fighter who was going to be executed, right? I mean, we have a kind of an idea. She's running away from like her parents because she's on the missing kid list or whatever. So that's kind of like a nod to it. But it feels like one of those things where it's like, it's a great mystery. You'll find out. And it's like, that's not the mystery. Don't tell me that that's the mystery, because that's a lame mystery. That's a bad mystery. To find out why I'm doing all the things I'm doing, that's a terrible mystery. That's a horrible mystery. So I hope it's not that. I hope it's like, you know, when you play the full game, it's like, by the way, you're running away because your parents are voting for President Tyrak, and like they are, you know, they're forcing you to cut your hair, and they're going to send you to like gay conversion therapy or some shit, you know, like anything at all that just is more motivated beyond just like kind of baseline political motivations, because I just don't think that that's a very convincing or empathetic argument that a narrative can make, right? So if the narrative wants to make a more meaningful argument, it needs to come from a human thing. And while political motivations are very human, they don't convey as easily as I think as some other empathetic reactions. So I think that like I said, I hope that the grand mystery of the narrative is not figuring out why you're leaving, because that would be awful. That's just, if you're thinking of games like or if you're thinking of narratives, like if you're thinking of a book like a game, not telling the audience why the character's doing what they're doing is like me playing chess and you, the audience, playing, I don't know, ping pong. You know what I mean? But the only way that you can win ping pong is if you kill my king. It just like it doesn't make any sense. That's kind of ultimately the point I'm trying to make, is like you have to play a fair game, and by withholding a ridiculously key piece of information in order for me to play your game, to play your book, you can't just say like, well, okay, so how you play chess is you serve the ball by hitting it with this little paddle, right? But you have to kill my king with one of your chess pieces. You don't have any, but you'll figure it out. It's the great mystery of the story. It's like, don't do that. Just don't. Ever. Don't ever do that in a narrative, ever. But otherwise, I think it's really cool. Genuinely, like I'm being honest in this regard. I know I've talked a lot of. I don't think it's really talking shit on the game. I think it's more like just kind of analyzing it, and like editing it, as it were. Is like if games were as easy to edit as books are, I would say these are the things that I think would strengthen the narrative quality, right? So I think I'll grab the full game, and then I'll see if that opening act is in there, because I really hope it is, because it would do so much for the narrative. So as far as embodied fiction goes, this ended up not being, I think, the best example of embodied fiction in games. So I think I'll table that discussion for another game. and when I come across a game that has embodied fiction, I'll talk about it. But this game ended up being a better example of like political narrative, lack of an opening act, clunky scene structure, that kind of thing. But really interesting moments of tension, really great moments of tension, really pretty good way of doling out some of the world info, because at first I was like, oh my god, I might need to turn this game off because the world seems so self-conscious. And I still think that, but I think that like grounding that hitchhiker kid really grounded it for me. I don't know why, but something about that kid, like the genuine fear that he had, and like the cop letting me go when he didn't, like this innate unfairness to it, like that political tension really spoke a lot about the world, and it made the world feel a lot more real. It wasn't just like these kind of, you know, cops that roll up in masks and like kill the small one, you know, like they would in a lot of other games. And the promise, like this right here is a really interesting thing to me, the promise of these characters returning, right? Like I'm just imagining, how do I see Fanny again? You know, how do our paths cross again as I'm trying to get out? Yeah, this game also really makes me want to play Jalopy, like really badly, because I think Jalopy is kind of this game, but a little more embodied, a little less authored narrative, and a little bit more embodied ludic narrative. So maybe we'll play that next week as a good contrast. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's been enough for Vandayaha for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you want to see more of me, obviously click the subscribe button in YouTube. Go over to Itch, follow me there so you can get the updates on the game jams. You can also you can go to the Twitch page, and I'll just do this anyway. But if you go to the Twitch page, you'll see a link to the Discord. There's also a link to the Discord on the Itch. There's a link to the Discord on the YouTube, I believe. There's a link to the Discord everywhere. And the Discord has the links out to all the other shit. So what I would say mostly, the most important thing, if you're interested in coming and watching this again, or if you want to watch the VODs again, just join the Discord. That's easily the best way to do it, because I'm there all the time and I'm talking to people all the time. And we have a pretty cool community where we talk about making games, we talk about narrative, we talk about all kinds of stuff. We do pixel art dailies, you know, we post our pixel art. I didn't do mine today. Sorry. I was getting ready for the stream. And yeah, so I think that's the end of the video, and I'll be back next week. And oh yeah, and the game jam, I think it starts like September. It starts sometime in September. First or second week. I can't remember if it's the first or the second week, but I'll have that answer for you next week, which is a good reason for you to watch the stream or the YouTube video. Okay, so this has been Vandayaha Games. Oops. This has been Vandayaha Games. I hope you guys have a good day, and I will talk to you later. Tschüss, as the Germans say. Auf Wiedersehen.